What's up with it?
You know, it's Friday. We are less than a month away from some major things.
Most definitely.
We got a little sun outside, which I love to see. So it's good. I feel great.
Introduce yourself so that people know who you are.
I am Alisha Sonnier. I'm 25 years old. I was born and raised in St. Louis. I love my community. I love my people. I'm very passionate about mental health. I think that it desperately needs to be normalized, and I think there are a lot of situations where people get criminalized and what they need is healing. I am a big person who loves glitter and all things sparkly. I love to cook. I'm very active in my community as an activist. I'm running for school board because I think education is critical. I have a podcast called Black Tea. So my whole goal is just to liberate and heal people. That is really my goal. I want us to be educated, know what's going on. I want us to be informed people. I don't want people making decisions for us. And I want us to be healed, happy, whole beings.
So you caught my attention. You say you're running for school board, be a school board member.
Yes. Yes, so St. Louis Public Schools has a board of education, and that consists of 7 members. It actually has not, we just got local control, so this is our second actual election process. And so education is so pivotal, it's been so transformative to my life. When everything happened with Michael Brown, I got heavily involved with an activist, and that was actually my first year as a college student. So I had this very strong intersection that year of education and social justice and community and seeing that relationship. And so now is election time. January 19th was the last day to file. I decided to file because we are worthy of representing ourselves, and we need leaders who are going to advocate even when it's not uncomfortable. And, they thought they could bury us, but, we're seized.
What exactly made you decide, hey, I'm just going to run?
Education had been so pivotal, and to be honest with you, I actually got approached by some folks to run for Alderperson of a ward, and I just didn't feel, when things get presented to you, sometimes it connects to your soul and your spirit, and then sometimes it looks really good on paper, but you don't feel it. So I didn't feel that, and I opted not to do that. I offered to support whoever might run in that position because I'm always passionate about politics. And then I was just paying attention, and people started, I tutor and I facilitate students. And so I really and they're started doing well, getting really good grades. I was able to design a curriculum and just see these young people grow. And so when I learned about the school board, it's basically making policy and setting the culture and the expectations for our district. And I want to do that. I was born and raised here. I think it's critical. I think people don't pay enough attention to politics, period, but certainly not elections, local elections, and certainly not school boards. So I was I'm going to run because this is important. It's being overlooked, and this is such an important time for our city and our scholars. And I know that the skills and experiences that I bring, I can do, and because our children deserve the best, and I want to have a role in giving them that.
What is the role of a school board member?
So the role of a school board member, and I get this question a lot, and honestly, I think that there is the traditional role of a school board member, and I think that there's just leadership. So as a school board member, you make sure that you're setting policy decisions on the superintendent, evaluating the performance of the superintendent. All of those major decisions play a part, and so that's the traditional role of a school board member. For me, this is a next step in my journey. I have a podcast where I educate people on political education and try to keep them engaged in a training way. I'm a mental health advocate. So for me, I want to do that role, but leadership is not the role in what's defined, and I think that's the problem sometimes with our leaders. I want to serve our kids. I want to serve our city. I want them to go to school and leave, not just being, better educated and more knowledgeable, but really being whole beings and being supported so that they can reach their full potential. So my role as a community, as a board member, is going to look like having as much transparency as possible. I want us to make decisions together. It's going to look like community immersion. I have a lot of relationships as a result of my activism with community leaders and elected officials. I want to use those relationships to bring those relationships to our students. And most importantly to me is holisticness and getting away from the school to prison pipeline. So that is my really big focus. I want to do our duties, but I also want us to acknowledge how powerful it can be when we come together as a community and the type of transformative and holistic change that we can cause.
What do you mean by holistic?
So holistic is this idea that I think we get it a lot. Like, you might have a kid in the classroom and you're just like, do this test and do well on it. Like, that's just their one facet of being. That's an academic. An holistic approach is when you acknowledge that in order for any being to perform and to exist in this world as their full potential, they have to be nourished wholly. So for me, that ties in really strong to mental health and meeting their basic needs. What can we do as a district to make sure, like, I can put a test in front of you, but if you're hungry, are you going to be able to perform on the test? You know what I'm saying? I can put a test in front of you, but if you're dealing with a lot of, like, crime and just not a peaceful home at home, are you really able to perform? So holisticness just looks like making sure that they are in the best position so that they really can flourish and be the scholars that they are, but that they're in a position to do that.
Is that your plan once you are elected?
That's
implement that?
That is my plan once I'm elected to implement that. It's a really big plan. And I don't think that it's my plan. I think that it's the community's plan. I think that there are a lot of folks right now who are excited about the opportunity to have new leadership. There are a lot of people that have a lot of pride in SLPS district, and there's a lot of people that are rightfully frustrated. So I think this idea of approaching our education from a holistic perspective, where we support our children as whole beings, this idea where we own some of the systematic racism and different things that are in our educational systems, I think that that's something that as a community we want and we're ready for, and that's really what I view my role is. I just want to be a message of the people. I want to get us what do we want for our kids? What decisions do we feel? So it's not I will be doing it, but I will be a vessel and I will be acting on behalf of like what is in our best interest and what we collectively want.
Yeah, I think I seen you on like a forum with the 8th Ward. I think Tishaura Jones was on there. She made a statement saying that previous administrations that directly disinvested in the North schools is kind of part of the reason why some of the schools, or majority of the schools in North City is closing. Is that kind of related to what you say you were trying to close the gap between the school to prison pipeline?
Yeah, for sure. I think what Tishaura was highlighting was just the inequities that we have in our system. We have an inequitable education system. We know that what tends to fund public education comes from the resources available in the community. So a lot of the structures and the way that things are set up can be inequitable, and we can just be honest and say, especially for kids of color and especially for Black children. So a part of me taking this role is because I think that we can get those resources and we can build those bridges. And I think that it has to be, it's larger than 7 people on the board. It's larger than me. It has to be a community project. We have to collaborate with elected officials like Tishaura Jones, with other elected officials, with community leaders to bring those resources there. Because there has been some intentional disinvestment. That's just historic and that's just factual. But there can also be some intentional investment. There can also be some intentional work to undo the harm that has been done and to position our district to be the best. We already have the best kids. We have the brightest scholars. We just need to give them the resources and implement the right structures so that can take off.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Just kind of implement mental awareness or mental health, mental education into the school. I don't think they really have that now.
I like to say that we need to get away from criminalizing and get into healing. Mm-hmm. And that is like the bridge between holisticness and the school to prison pipeline. What I know, for my job, I work as a mental health advocate. I'm in school and I'm working on becoming a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So I'm learning very in depth every day about mental health and the ways that it's stigmatized, the stigmatizes that's around it, the ways that, we don't see it, but it's very apparent, the lack of education. And so I think that for our schools and for our students, one, the earlier that you can expose someone to something, the more likely they are to be acceptable. So just by being a district that we normalize words like therapy, we normalize words like mindfulness, and you're getting that at 5, you're getting that at 6, you're getting that from kindergarten to 12th grade. By the time you come out, if nothing else, if you are open to the concept of therapy, if you are open to the concept of checking in with yourself, believing in yourself, having peace in your mind, having a sense of mindfulness, then we've made some progress there. But then I think certainly as a district with a budget of over $398 million, we can go further than that. We can get some real things in our resources. So it's not just them knowing, but we're actually giving them direct access to these things. And when we support students in that way, we know that if we support them mentally, we support them psychologically, they will flourish everywhere else. It's just a matter of time. Our athletes will be better athletes. Our scholars will be brighter scholars. Our teachers will be better educators. Our whole district will be in a position to really be the best version of themselves.
Do you think it'd be difficult to kind of combat against the systematic racism? Like, because we already, I guess, placing these environments to be conditioned the way that some of us are.
For sure, I know that it will be difficult. It has been difficult. And a lot of other work that I've done in activism, working on things that, you know, when we have bills that say it's a $500 fee to feed the homeless, putting together an action of like a couple hundred people and feeding the homeless folks on steps, and then meeting with legislators the next day and having that bill taken off. Working to get the minimum wage raised, knowing the way that our system exploits the poor and knowing that certain people profit from having poor, working in favor of, you know, being in women's rights, being young, being black, being a woman myself. Like, I know that these things aren't easy, but guess what? Leadership is not about what's easy. Leadership is about what's needed. And if we don't get people who are willing to push and push the edge, we will simply continue to get what we have. So I'm not doing this with the idea that it's easy. I welcome the challenges, because challenges are what it takes to grow. I'm willing to go through challenges. I'm willing to figure out how to build these bridges, and I'm going to do it with the community right beside me, because at the end of the day, when we look up and we have created this more holistic culture, when we have brought this transformative, you know, this transformative education, when more of our students have higher graduation rates and more opportunities after graduating, and they graduate with a strong sense of self, then those challenges and those difficulties are worth it. So for me, I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm not doing this because I think it's going to be easy. I know it's going to be hard, but I know, one, I don't have to do it by myself. We have a community, we have parents, we have teachers, we have scholars, we have educators, we have elected officials. I've gotten some endorsements from some folks, including Tishaura Jones and other folks in leadership, because I'm already starting those conversations about, like, how can we work together after this election to give our scholars what they deserve. So something being challenging, that's just a fact. That's what it is. But a challenge is an opportunity for growth. So I'm here for it, and I want to get into it. I want to do what it takes.
How has the process been, you know, starting the campaign and just running it since you started?
It's been amazing and challenging, but very rewarding. So the first thing that I feel very blessed and very aligned and very on path. That's the first thing that I feel. Like, when my mom was my age, she wasn't in a position where she could think about running for office. She couldn't think about being on the school board, you know, and trying to secure a holistic and transformative education for her scholars. My mom at that time was thinking about how to pay her rent, how to get herself through school. You know, my father he graduated from college when I graduated from high school. So I feel, just as a person who's having the opportunity to run, like, I consider it an honor to be able to serve your city, to be able to serve your scholars. So that's the first thing that I feel is just like privilege. It takes a lot of time to run a campaign and still be a mental health advocate, and still, you know, as all of us have these things going, but the fact that I'm able to have the time, like, I'm really thankful of that. And then, of course, you learn a lot. There's so much about SLPS. It really has such a strong history when you're thinking about how long we've had local control, when you're thinking about the ways that our budget fluctuates, when you're thinking about the relationship between leadership and different investments that are making, when you're thinking about the amount of children that are probably going home hungry. Like, there's so many things that I get an in-depth, up-close look at that it can be just, it's challenging, and it just sits on you, because I actually really care. So when I read these statistics and I'm learning these facts, it's not like you're just like reading a book or reading a report and put it to the side. I'm really thinking, like, realistically, April 6th, I will be able to impact over 20,000 scholars. And that's a real thing, and that's a real responsibility. So I feel that, but I mean, it's been so amazing. I have an amazing team. And so that's amazing, like, to be running for office and to see the way that people have just, like, the moment I had this idea, the way that people have encouraged it, the way that people have supported it, the way that people have shared it upon their networks. You invite me here to have this interview, like, the amazing, amazing team that I have, like, it just really also reminds me of the power of people coming together, because this is a grassroots campaign, but this is a citywide election. But we are doing it. Like I said, we've got folks on board, local awards. I just got the 14th ward endorsement. I was super excited to see that. And just things continue to come together. Students, like, cause I do tutor, so like my students and mentor, my students are so excited when I talk to them about like what's going on. Seeing the way that there are other people in this city that do care about our education, that a lot of times we talk about politics, especially in the Black community. I think a lot of people just feel like, what's the point? Like, there's no hope, there's no chance. But there is hope, and there is a chance. And on April 6th, you can check that box and we can move towards that together. And I know that because I'm in these spaces. Like, I'm working with my team tirelessly every day, trying to figure out the right steps and the right approach and how to center community and how to be transparent. It's not about doing things that have been done, because we'll get the same things, but being innovative for new solutions. I'm getting to meet with other politicians who are sharing in the vision and seem very genuine. So this has just been, it's interesting. And then obviously you learn, you have forums with folks who you're right in the room with them, and you're learning how to really hear what people are asking you and how to give the most honest response in a condensed space. A lot of meetings, a lot of canvassing, which is actually, to give you some tea, as an organizer, that's actually my favorite part, because that's the part that comes the most easily to me. It's like going to the community, knocking the doors, talking to people. That's the most easy. But running a campaign is like, it is basically a campaign for your community. It is you declaring like, hey, I want us to come together and talk about our collective visions. I want us to believe in ourselves, and I want us to actually do things to make this happen. So it's been an amazing experience. It continues to be an amazing experience, and no matter what happens, we're gonna win. But no matter what happens, I feel extremely honored to even have the opportunity to serve my city.
Will you be the youngest member?
I believe so. So you have to be 24 to run. I'm 25. I mean, it wouldn't have been possible for me to run any younger, because I wouldn't have been 24 yet. So I will be the youngest, and obviously I'm Black, and obviously I'm a woman. And I think this is also an opportunity for me to show, I think folks in my age group and even older folks, we're kind of starting to learn that that's an asset. Like, so this campaign and me being in this position, I want scholars who are in our district to know that they one day can represent themselves, and they don't have to wait until they have children of their own. They are fit to represent themselves. So I think even just me being here in this seat is a sign to other folks, to our city, that like there's a chance, there's a hope, you're good enough, you're fit, you're worthy. And that's like a part of the message that's really, really important to me, especially because I know what it's like to be young and to be constantly told that you're not able to make decisions for yourself, to have people acting on your behalf, which is a part of why I want to definitely have some things to have students give us their direct thoughts and feedback. But yeah, it's been an experience.
It'll be pretty dope, especially with this Women's History Month.
It's Women's History Month, and it's been really dope. The wraparound of everything, Black Tea, the podcast that I have, like usually I'm in your seat where I'm talking to like politicians, and I'm like, literally I interviewed Rasheen Aldridge, and I remember him talking to me. I was asking him like, what was it like running your campaign? Like, what was their process are? And I listened back to it yesterday, and like hearing some of his same feedback and thoughts, and now like having my own experiences in this seat, but seeing that natural cycle and progression, it really makes me feel like I'm destined to be here. I am right where I'm supposed to be in this moment. The way that everything has just kind of come together and continues to come together, the way that the support pours in, and just really having that hope and that fire ignited in me, and having other people say, hey, I feel inspired by what you're doing. Like, keep it up. Like, that makes it worth it, for sure.
So, once you do win, I'm gonna say congratulations early.
Thank you.
Coming to a closing here, I seen on your Facebook page, you spoke up on where you posted about the Roseanne McCollum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I honestly grew up in a home that had abuse at times, and I work in mental health, and I do work on our crisis line, and I studied psychology in undergrad, and we know 1 in 3 women, experience sexual harassment, and so many of us experience violence. And it's really just such a tragic story to me to hear about a woman who, often we get told to follow the process, everything worked out. Where here's a woman who was being abused, she filed a police report, she filed a restraining order, she took the proper steps, and still, in the end, her abuser was able to come and kill her and take her life. And so it sits really heavy on me because so much of my work is about just healing people and liberating this world, and I wish that we did not have to live in a world where women are that unprotected and people are that unprotected where you could be harmed. So I definitely had to say something and speak on it. And also I think that it's an opportunity, the school board gives us an opportunity to build and invest in strong children. And if we do that, those children will hopefully grow into being protected children who it is harder to attack them, but also we can have less abusers come. It just really reinforces, most abusers were abused. And so it kind of did really hit like the importance of this campaign, the importance of a school district, the power that we do have, because we can prevent these instances happening 10, 20 years before they happen if we can invest in people, put the right folks around people, and give them the right resources and tools and coping mechanisms, which is what, that's why holisticness is in my campaign, because that is key and critical to so much.
Let the people know where they can find you, or how can they support you during your campaign.
So, you can, this is my name in writing. You probably will see me in your community because we will be canvassing and we will be out in these streets. I need more canvassers and I need more folks out in these streets because it is a grassroots campaign and it is all about getting the message out to the people. So you can find me on Alisha for SLPS.com. You can go there and you can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up to donate. We have a Cash App, Alisha Sonnier for SLPS. Either of those methods, if you reach out, you send a message. You can find me on Facebook, and Alisha Sonnier. I have a public official page for the campaign. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Alisha Liberty. So I'm pretty accessible, I'm pretty reachable, and even after April 6th, even after this airs, even after we win this seat, you can still find me and you can still reach out to me, because that's why I'm doing this interview. I do lives every Saturday just to try to check in with people. Transparency is so important, because what I know from my experience as an activist, what I know from being a student myself, what I know from Black Tea is people cannot nor support nor resist what they don't know about. So it's so important that we transparent and we show the community, and as we learn it, we get it, because like I said, you can't support nor be against what you don't know about, and it's not about making decisions for people, it's about putting people in decisions to make the most empowered choices for themselves. So April 6th, let's do that. Get out and vote.